Hey everybody, welcome back to TechOdyssey. So today I want to talk about how the Samsung Galaxy S22 that's about to come out is the Pixel 6's best friend. And that's because the prices are going to be significantly higher than what you look at with the Pixel 6. And when we talk about smartphones, we're typically used to having a conversation about three, whichever you want to do it, three different smartphone brands. Used to be it was always Samsung, LG, and Apple. Well, we don't have LG anymore. They went out of business April of last year for their mobile handset division. So the heir apparent was OnePlus. But OnePlus did such a terrible job over this last year and decided to shoot themselves in the foot with their phone and their basically the way they do business, and they've made major like backsteps in the US market. They're underneath the Oppo brand now. They're merging Oxygen OS. It's going to have Color OS, I think. Some crazy weird stuff going on there. I couldn't have even predicted if I tried. It looked like they were on an upward trajectory, and then they weren't. So that leaves us with these guys, the Pixel 6 and the 6 Pro, which is not necessarily a bad thing, especially if you are a fan of Google Pixel phones. Now, just putting this out there, yes, we know there have been some issues, but by and large, the phones seem like they're about where they're supposed to be for most people. I know some people are still experiencing some issues, but by and large, I think for the most part, it's fixed. I think, hopefully. But talking about it from a marketability perspective, this is what I want to discuss. Because the Pixel 6 is $599. The S22, from what I've seen, it looks like it's going to start off at $899. There's another rumor or a leak that came out here the other day that said possibly $799. If it does, that still helps, but it doesn't change my argument, because when you walk into a store, whether an S22 is $799 or $899, you can get this guy for $599, and it helps the Pixel 6 Pro even more, because you can get a Pixel 6 Pro for $899. So if they do come out and they're $899, which looks better, an S22 that is a dumbed down version of the S22 Ultra or a Pixel 6 Pro at the $899 price point. Pixel 6 Pro, you got the 6.7-inch screen, you get the Quad HD Plus, you get the 120 Hz refresh rate, you get the full complement of cameras that are going to be better than the ones in the S22 base model. It's kind of a no-brainer. And you've got a 5,000 milliamp battery. If you look at that next to each other, if you look at the S22, it's rumored to have about a 3,800, 3,700 milliamp battery. If you walk into a store and you see both of them side by side, the Pixel 6 Pro is a much more compelling phone. And it also has that intrigue factor. Like, a lot of people look at it, when you look at an S series device, I mean, by and large, they mostly look like this. I mean, take the case off real quick. But an S22 phone is going to look a lot like this, except they're going to change up the camera bump a little bit. They're very boring phones, and they look basically the same with a slight rearrangement every year. Then you get this guy. It's new. It looks different. It's a unconventional design. And a lot of people at first were like, I don't really like that. I've been on board since day one. I like it. I call it the RoboCop form factor because it's got this whole little visor across for the camera module. It looks pretty cool. So when you talk about it, you look at both of them side by side. Yes, I know there are some people who would much rather have a Snapdragon 8 Generation 1, which I have concerns about that too. I've been hearing about the heating issues and battery stuff. It doesn't look like the answer to our prayers we were expecting, replacing the Snapdragon 888 this last year. And on paper, it's not much of a spec bump. It has more of an emphasis on the AI and machine learning, but as far as straight up hardware and power and all that stuff, it's really not that much of a difference. I think it's just a tweaked 888. And on paper, the Dimensity 9000 and also the A15 blow it out of the water in most categories. So it's one of those things where there's not a lot of excitement, I don't think, that's building around these phones. Now, a lot of people are very interested in the Ultra, but the Ultra is basically the Note. I've been affectionately calling it the Note 22 Ultra. Some people want that. It's going to have like a 6.8-inch screen. The stylus is going to be fully maxed out to the 9s, but we're looking at probably $1299, which is a lot of money. So when you walk in and you go, okay, there's a S22 Ultra over here for about $1299, or you can look at the Pixel 6 Pro, that's $899. And they're going to be on par in most areas. I mean, you're going to have the Snapdragon 8 Generation 1 and the Samsung, and you're going to have the Tensor chip and the Pixel, if people care that much about it. But I think most of the people who are enthusiasts have probably picked them up already. So I think as we enter into the springtime, you're going to have people that are looking for value. You have people who are going to look for something new, something exciting, because I think we can all safely say here that most phones are boring nowadays. It doesn't matter whether you have a Samsung phone, whether you have an LG phone from last year, whether you have a Xiaomi phone, whether you have even a Pixel phone. They're pretty much all boring. Now, this does change things up a little bit. I do like the way it looks. It's a redesigned phone, and it's something that looks different than the norm, so it stands out more. So if you walk into an AT&T or a T-Mobile store, I think it might catch some people's eyes. Of course, I like the colors too. But all that stuff aside, we're at such a level now when it comes to performance, when it comes to camera performance, when it comes to so many different things, they're very much on par. So it's hard for somebody to go in there and say, okay, I want a flagship phone. These are my options. And they go, well, I can get a Pixel 6, or I can get a $799 or an $899, whatever it is, the S22, or I can get a Pixel 6 Pro at $899, which is basically the same price, which gives me absolutely everything. Or I can trade up and I can pay the $1299 supposedly to get the S22 Ultra. So I think this is going to help. Even though we've come off of the heels of having some software issues, and thankfully Google's finally got stuff mostly lined out, I think Google is going to win in this department because I think that they caught on to something. People don't have as much money right now as they used to. Inflation is through the roof. We've had economic downturn. There's been all sorts of problems over the last 2 years. Yeah, it's difficult for somebody to go out and say, okay, let me buy this $1,000, $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 phone. In my personal opinion, I think people are less inclined ever than buy that stuff. So I think we're still going to see the downslide on the sales projection for those top-end phones. But whenever you look at a Pixel 6, if you can walk in the store and apples to apples, it's mostly on par with an S22, even an S21, an iPhone 13, whatever, $599 or $899. That's really attractive, and it does have the name Google associated with it. There's less risk there in people's eyes, or if you don't know Google, but there are less risks associated with it because you walk in there. A lot of people were never really enamored with OnePlus. Even as they finally made it into the market, a lot of people still didn't know what OnePlus was, maybe didn't trust them, or like, well, it feels like it's cheaper because it doesn't say Samsung or it doesn't say Apple. Whereas when you look at a Google phone, everybody's familiar with Google. We got Google everything. You got the Google search engine. You got the Google Assistant. We got all the Google Home products. You got Google out the wazoo. So it's an easy association to make. When you walk in, you have that name of trust already. You have that brand recognition and familiarity, which goes a long way. And then they go, wow, that phone's made by Google and it doesn't cost $1,000. So despite whether we had a rocky start off with the Pixel already, despite the fact that it came after the folding phones, the Fold 3, the Flip 3, and the iPhone 13, I think that we're going to have an upsurgence with more sales going into the first quarter, whatever, second quarter now, I guess, as we enter into February of 2022. I think people are going to be more inclined to pick one of these up when they walk into a store and they go, okay, this phone's $899, this phone's $1,099, this phone is $1,299, $599 right here. And I bet you that Google's probably going to have some sales, some trade-in incentives, and some price drops right around the same time. Because what is a better selling point than walking in and seeing a new phone you were excited about that comes in as $799, $899, $1,099, and then you've got something like this sitting right next to it on the shelf that's $200, $300, $500 cheaper. So I think it's going to help out. I think it's going to play in Google's favor. That's why going into the spring, I think it's going to be significantly helpful. And when you walk in, people are going to be more inclined to buy one. It doesn't have those third-party problems like other ones have had in the past. It's not like OnePlus where people are skeptical about it or people have heard bad things. Or it's not like LG where in the past it was, okay, well, I buy it, but it's got all this bloatware or it's got this or it's got that. There are less drawbacks and less stigmas because, well, I mean, a lot of people haven't stigmatized the Pixel phones yet. The LG was a heavily stigmatized phone, and it was very, very not favorably reviewed, at least favorably talked about by the tech community. It's kind of risen up to the top, so to speak, as a primary third contender in the US smartphone marketplace, and I think that's a good thing. I think this is going to be a good year for Pixel with their phones, with Google putting them out there and marketing them more heavily than ever. I think that we'll see a resurgence in sales. I hope so anyway. That would be great because there's some of that market share. I think LG left about a 13% market share void this last year when they left the market space. So I've been hoping that Google could pick some of that up, make some headway in the US market space, and give us some more phones and sell some more so that we can get more cool stuff. So that's why I say that the S22 is the best friend of the Pixel 6 right now because, hey, if you need a new phone and you walk into a carrier and you see something, a lot of times before it was, okay, we've got the Pixel 5, it doesn't look quite as nice. The Pixel 4 looked kind of plastic. The Pixel 3, it looked kind of plastic too. You looked at the Pixel 4 and 5a series, they definitely look like cheap plastic. So this right here, the premium look and finish, the changed design, I think it's going to be more eye-catching. The price is going to be eye-catching. and I think this will be a good opportunity this spring for their phones. So that's all I've got. What do you think? Do you think that the Pixel 6 is primed for success because just even though it's a good phone, whenever you look at the iPhones and you look at the Samsungs, it's priced so well competitively? Do you think that it stands alone on its own based off of reputation and performance? I don't know. We'll have to see what happens, but I'm genuinely interested and curious to see what happens and see how much market share that Google can pick up, because I think they're good phones. I know there's been some problems and we've had some issues along the way, but I still stand by mine and I'm a big fan. So that's all I've got. If you have any questions or comments, please head down in the comments section and I will get back with you. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.